This episode of the podcast is brought to you by our new sponsor, Impact Tactical. They're a tactical outfitter for first responders and military. Me, guys, personally, I can vouch for them and their quality service. I've used them for the last 11 years of my career. Be sure to check them out at impacttactical.com. That's MPAK tactical.com, and be sure to tell them that Two Cops One Donut sent you. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by HRH Combat Arms. They can turn your vision into reality. They specialize in gunsmithing and Cerakoting. Your Cerakote specialist is Air Force veteran and retired police sergeant Paul Ware, aka the Sarge. He can Cerakote your firearms, auto parts, tools, even your sports equipment. This veteran-owned business is located at 5025 Saunders Suite 103, Fort Worth, Texas 76119. You can call them at 682-304-0363, and you can find them online at www.hrhcombatarms.com. That's www.hrhcombatarms.com. All right, welcome back. Two Cops, One Donut. I am your host, Eric Levine, and I have a special guest with me today, Annette Zapp, a female firefighter. You know, it's kind of like the unicorn of firefighters because you do not see that often. And I want the female firefighter perspective. I think that's something that any ambitious female out there looking to get in this career field, the best people to hear it from is right from the horse's mouth. And I got Annette, who is supposedly a badass. We'll find out through the show. I was told by Chris, somebody that we had on the show, that she is the one to talk to. So how are you doing, Annette?
Well, I'm a little worried because Chris Moore promised you a badass, and
Yes.
you're probably just gonna get an ass. So we'll see, but let's just think about that.
Yeah, I told him, he's like, after we got done recording and stuff, I was like, hey man, you're in the firefighter world, you know, I've got full access to the police world, obviously. I was like, but what I cannot find, I've reached out to several female firefighters on social media, and maybe they think I'm a creeper. I don't know, but I could understand that. And I'm like, you know, I'm messaging all these female firefighters that are actually following the page and stuff. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a female firefighter to interview. And I'll either get ghosted completely, they just won't answer, or they're like, oh, you know, I appreciate it, but I can't, or the department won't let me, which I totally understand that. So I get that part.
Well, I think they probably think you're punking them. Two Cops, One Donut wants to talk to a firefighter.
Yeah.
Seems like a setup.
Yeah, it does. And it's funny because I don't know if you've heard the explanation. When I first made the show name, I had a co-host. I mean, he still comes on occasionally. It's just really hard to match up with time and all that. But my favorite podcast is called Two Bears, One Cave. And that's Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura. I love their podcast. And I was like, you know what? That's funny because they're two big, hairy dudes. Like they'll play on themselves. I get it. And so I was like, all right, well, what would be funny play on words with me? I'm like, I love The Simpsons and stuff like that. I love The Simpsons cops, especially Chief Wiggum and whatnot. I was like, well, two cops, you know, I could have a co-host, and one donut was, you know, like just picture some comical thing where we're fighting over the last donut. And I thought that was funny. And then so I make it, and I didn't run it by a whole lot of people. And then when I do make it and I start posting some stuff, I got friends that are like, oh, dude, Two Cops, One Donut. It's funny. It's like Two Girls, One Cup. I was like, fuck.
No. You messed up.
I was like, that wasn't the intention, but that's funny. And I have a dark sense of humor. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to even bother to change it. Because if that's the correlation, if that makes people like, well, let me see what this is all about, then I'll get into it. So, but yeah, that's just how it turned out. So I get what you're saying. That could turn off some females from wanting to join up. But maybe they'll see yours and they'll be like, well, she did it, and she's a badass, so I'm a badass too. I'll join up.
Okay, I hope that is the case.
Okay, so basic way I usually guide this show is the first thing I want to get into is I want people to get to know you. I want them to fall in love with AZ. And where did you come from, and how did you get on the path to becoming a firefighter?
Oh, that is a long path, and I will try to give the Cliff Notes.
Okay.
What it was not, I didn't grow up watching fire trucks go screaming down the street and think that's what I want to do when I get big. I bounced around a lot as a child. My parents moved around, and where we ended up as a junior in high school, um, we had a volunteer fire department. I don't even think I ever saw the trucks move down the street. So I was largely unaware of this career altogether. And I was on a path to being a law enforcement officer. So I really, really wanted to be an FBI agent. I think I probably watched a few too many episodes of things like Charlie's Angels and Magnum and all of those things growing up.
Yeah.
And so I really, really wanted to be a law enforcement officer. And to spare your listeners all the gory details, I just kept running into barriers, the first of which was a vision barrier, and then the second of which was 9/11. So I had an offer, and then 9/11 happened, and all the offers got rescinded. And then the third time, which was actually as recently as 2007, I had an offer with Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, but they wanted me to relocate me to East St. Louis, which at the time wasn't a great, it just wasn't a great move for me where I was in my life. So I was always on that trajectory to being a law enforcement officer. And I took a little side path into the health and wellness space. And I was working full time in that space. And I started to meet firefighters coming into the gym. And they told me, which typically firefighters do this, they tell you all the great parts about the job. We get to drive cool trucks, we get to make rescues, and there's a lot of time off. We have great insurance. And I thought, this is the job for me. And so I started the prerequisites and requirements, got my paramedic license, took all the testing, and then I got hired in 2004. And I've been at the same department ever since.
Okay. So you get attracted to the job through all the, obviously the cool parts of it, you know,
Yeah.
and then you slowly realize that you're dealing with a lot of medical homeless calls and you know, helping fix things, people's vehicles, broke down vehicles and stuff like that, rather than running lights and sirens screaming to a fire.
Yeah, because nationwide we go to very few fires anymore. Primary majority of our calls are all, like you said, EMS calls, person locked out of their house, cat in a tree, typical emergencies such as that.
Right.
So, in terms of responses, the job didn't quite turn out to be exactly what I thought it would be for sure.
How old were you when you got into it?
I was old, actually. So in Illinois, you have to be 21, but you have to be hired by the time you're 35. And I
Okay.
was 33.
Okay.
So I was an old rookie. And then we have different tiers of our pension system in Illinois. And so I'm luckily tier one. So I only need to do 20 years and I can collect 50%. But that means I have to work till I'm 53. And it's a young person's job for sure.
Right. Now, uh, I was alluding to it earlier. You see lots of females in police work. Like that isn't so uncommon anymore. That's a accepted practice, you know. But firefighting, just kind of like the military. There are females in the military. I don't want to, but there are certain career fields in the military that you very rarely see a female. And I'm like full disclosure. I've never seen or met a female firefighter that I've worked around in person. I know they exist. I know they're there. Like the city that I'm at, I'm pretty sure there are. I've heard of it, but I don't know if they still work there. And I definitely don't know how many. I've never seen one. So for you getting into that world, was that something that you had even considered up until that point?
No. And just to reflect for 1 second on your statement, statistically nationwide, there's only about 4%. So it's not that odd that you haven't run into a lot of them or any of them. And as far as me getting into the job, I tell this story. It's very funny. When I was in college in my first year, I worked at a fast food restaurant, which people now would think, what in the hell were you thinking? That's not you. But I worked at a fast food restaurant. And Fast forward now 16 years, I got invited back to that town. It was Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I got invited back to that town to give a lecture to their firefighters. And I put the address into my GPS and I drove. And I'm driving down the main drag in Sioux Falls and I'm seeing the restaurant that I used to work at in college. And then I'm supposed to turn right. And the firehouse was in the back parking lot of the restaurant. And so I said to my host, "Wow, when did you build this firehouse? I used to work at this restaurant." And he said, "Oh, it's been there for a good 20, 30 years. It was there when I was working at the restaurant, but I just never paid attention to it." So in terms of, I never saw female firefighters before I became interested in the career field either. But I think that the reason that I was drawn to it was the challenge of it, and wasn't nobody gonna tell me I couldn't do something. So, it was not a vendetta, that's not the right word, that's absolutely not the right word, but it was a challenge that I was not going to fail. And so it was difficult, but I think it's difficult for everyone. Male, female, young, old, I think it's a difficult career for everyone.
Now, while you were going through, did you ever get the vibe that because you were a female, that they were letting you slide on things um, that they wouldn't normally let the males slide on, or were they tougher on you because you were a female and they wanted to make sure you could hang with the males and stuff like that? I'm just trying to. I really want to empower females to go towards a career that, like you said, people generally say you can't do this. I like rooting for the underdogs on that stuff. So, you gotta, obviously we got a winning story here. So I just want to kind of give a real look to any female out there listening that's thinking about trying to be a firefighter. Like, this is the real shit to expect. No sugarcoating.
In my experience, nothing was made easier, definitely not easier. And my perception at times was that it was made intentionally harder on me. I don't know if that's reality, but that was my perception. I was lucky enough to get hired in the era when departments in my state were hiring firefighters that didn't already have the firefighter credential. So you needed to be a medic. They wanted you to have that medic credential. But if you didn't have the firefighter credential, they would send you to an academy, probably very similar to the law enforcement academy. And our particular academy, I can't remember if it was 9 weeks or 12 weeks. And it wasn't a resident academy. We didn't live there. We
Oh,
commuted to the academy every day. It was nearby us. But that was tough. And I went to the academy with I believe, four other people that got hired with me at my department. And we really bonded and we really stuck together and we really helped each other out. But that was a tough academy and it was tough for everyone. No one walked away from that saying, "Whoa, that was so easy." It was tough.
yeah, it's a common practice in the Midwest because I was a cop in Michigan for a bit. For you to have to put yourself through an academy, like get a certification. That down south where I'm at, Texas, like that, they still have that. They, like the college police academies and stuff like that. But more often than not, these departments are putting you through the academy themselves. They like sponsor you through the police academy. My department has its own police academy. Other cities that are around us, these cities that have good money, probably like Chicago PD and stuff like that,
Yeah.
have their own police academy where
Yes.
if you're trying to become a firefighter, like this is something to consider for anybody out there listening, or a police officer. There are some places that require you to put yourself through the academy. That sucks. Like when you get sponsored, that's awesome. That's the best that you can hope for. So if you can get sponsored by somebody, like it sounds like you were sponsored by the people that were trying to put you through. That's great because you're getting paid while you're going, and they pay for all your training and whatnot. You don't got to pay for it yourself.
Yeah. And we've actually, by we, I don't mean my department specifically. I mean the state of Illinois has created ourselves a little problem because back when I was trying to get hired, they were getting 500 and 600 people taking a test. And so they could be really picky with their requirements. And they kept making them more and more and more stringent. Now we want you to have this. Now we want you to have that. And within the last 2 or 3 testing cycles, all of the departments have started to get fewer and fewer and fewer applicants. And some departments will put out a test and get 0. No, not one single applicant to take their test. And
Wow.
so now we're going back in the other direction. We are easing those requirements and making it easier for people to get into the career.
Yes, that's a double-edged sword, both ways that you look at it. When it comes to police work, this is what. So part of this show, actually, the main focus of the show is bridging gaps between first responders and the community. Firefighters themselves recently have found themselves on the bad end of community outlash. Completely unjustified, in my opinion. Everybody should love firefighters. If you're gonna hate on anybody, hate on cops. We're the face of like the bad stuff. But firefighters and EMS and EMTs and all them guys, leave them alone. So the double-edged sword is you relax the standards, but now the quality of recruit or probie or whatever you guys call yourselves when you're trying to get in starts to diminish. You're not getting. You want your candidates to be up here as far as how they look on paper, I guess, quality-wise. But you start relaxing the standards, you start getting maybe lazier people or, people that are always pushing the envelope, risk takers, firefight. People are like, well, that's what firefighters do. No, firefighters are calculated risk takers. The good ones. They're not running into a burning building just because the building's on fire. They're doing a 360 assessment. They're checking it out. They're making sure that it's even safe to go into to try to rescue people. It's a team effort. And when you start to relax standards, this is what I want the community side to understand. This is where the bridge starts coming in through the communication and the education is, yes, if you need bodies for firefighting or police work, and the reason you're not getting candidates is because your regs are too stringent. Like you're saying, you're getting 0. That's a significant number. Like that doesn't happen, especially in a time when it seems like unemployment's kind of high. And I'm no, what do they call it, economic person or whatever. I don't know what the unemployment rate is in the nation. Down here in the South, it's actually, there's jobs everywhere. But up north, where my family's at in Michigan and stuff, they're not hiring. So if you're getting 0 or even close to, if 600 to 800 was your normal numbers and you're not anywhere near that, that's a loud message you need to pay attention to.
Well, we shot ourselves in the foot a little bit as well. The Illinois pension system got into trouble, not by the fault of the firefighters. We have always put in the amount that we are mandated without fail. But many of the municipalities started, I'm not that great on these terms, but sort of underfunding the pension and doing it routinely. And so we got ourselves into a bit of a pension problem, again, by no fault of the firefighters. And so I don't remember when it happened. It was probably close to a decade ago that we created a second tier on the pension system. And so now, rather than having to work a minimum of 20 years and you can retire at 50 with a 50% pension, now you have to work a minimum of 25 years until you're 55 to get 50%. And that doesn't sound like a big difference, but it really is. So now imagine that I had been 33 when I started, but in order to draw 50%, I have to now work until I'm 58. And then couple that with now I had to put myself through an academy on my own. I had to be a medic, and the pension system is going to be different for me. It's simply not as attractive as it used to be.
Yes. Our pension itself, where I'm at, had taken kind of a dip. It was your high 3, like they based your pension off your highest 3 years, and about 2 years of me being in my department, they switched it to your high 5. So I only qualified under that first 2 years for the high 3, which obviously you're not going to get in your first couple of years. So that really didn't make a difference to me. But yeah, we've had our own thing. I know Dallas Police Department got into kind of an issue because they had officers. They hit the retirement age or requirements, and they're staying on in this what do they call it, drop program,
Yes.
and and like ours was smart about it. Like my department, you have a drop cap. Like you can only do 5 years in the drop. That's it. So if you decide to stay on an extra 5 years, that obviously really helps the department out. You get paid your basic wage, and then the rest goes to your drop. But they were doing an unlimited drop, and you had officers retiring being like millionaires. Like so, obviously you can't sustain that type of retirement. I feel like the writing would have been on the wall with that. But yeah, that is a big thing with what we do as first responders is looking into our pensions and things of that nature, especially when you consider retiring at 55. And we're going to get into the fitness and wellness, which is going to be kind of the meat and potatoes, I think, of this. But I want, at 55, cops drop dead, 5 years after they retire. Firefighters drop dead. You hear it a lot, after that first year retirement. Oh, did you hear Bob? He had an aneurysm, died. Oh, shit, man. What happened? Well, he let us he had an active lifestyle and then sat around for a year, and it caught up to him real quick. So that goes for anybody, since we're talking about retiring. If you're out there listening and you're close to retirement age, have a plan to do stuff. Stay active when you retire. Don't become a couch potato, please. But all right, I want to get back to this. You go through the academy. It sucks. There's no academy that I have ever heard of that is awesome. But you get through, and you'll finally reach a point in the academy where you've made it. You're still there. You're still working. You've done your state requirement test, and you've made it. What is that feeling like as somebody that was told this ain't for you or anything like that?
It was great. We had that close knit group of 5 people. We cheered each other on. We celebrated each other's victories. We helped each other with our shortcomings. We really became tight, the 5 of us. And so it was like you said, something to be celebrated to finish. And then just that anticipation of now we get to the good part. Now we get to go
Yeah.
on shift and start doing, all of the real hero shit that everyone told us about.
Right. Were you the only female in your academy?
I was not actually. I believe there was at least nope, there were 2 other females. So the jurisdiction next to me, which is much bigger than I am, they had a female that they sent to the academy, and then there was a female from a part-time department elsewhere. And so it was interesting. They broke us up into these little groups of 4 in the academy, and you really kind of like the size of a truck company. And so you kind of really functioned with your group of 4 for the most part. And so I didn't have an awful lot of interaction with the other females because they were in different groups.
Okay. Did they make it through?
They did. Tracy is still a firefighter at that larger jurisdiction near me. And then I think her name was Cindy. She was at a department which is now defunct. I think it was absorbed by another department. So I don't know whatever happened to her.
Okay. Well, that's cool. That means you had 3 females, all 3 made it, so that's great. So you get through and you graduate, all your crew is like, you guys are celebrating and stuff, and you show up day one. Everybody knows that a female's coming to the department. They already know, I'm assuming, because they hired you.
Yeah.
They sponsored you. So
Yes.
you show up day one. What was that first year like for you?
It was tough in that my department wasn't necessarily set up for females. We have 5 stations, and we had one station in particular that had a female restroom, locker room, dedicated area, but none of the other 4 stations did. And the one station in particular where I spent my probation was actually under construction. So it wasn't even like there was an extra, like a hall bath or anything like that. So that whole process of knock, knock, can I come in and use the bathroom? It doesn't sound like a big deal, but it sort of wears on you after a while. And you come back from a fire call when you probably should grab a shower and change clothes, and you've got this common bunk area and other people are trying to take a shower, and it was a little bit uncomfortable. And and to be honest with you, we have made progressions, but we still have one of our stations that isn't set up for females. And so to me, it's been kind of a challenge, and I won't lie about that, because, taking a shower and using the bathroom is pretty much basic human dignity issue. And um, having that challenge through my entire career, it just got a little bit old. But overall, I think that most of the crews, we worked well together. We meshed well together. We took a team attitude to everything, which is what you have to do in the fire service. And now we actually have, a few years after I started, we hired another female, and then another one, and another one, so, and just one this week. So we now actually have 5 females on our department of 87 sworn personnel. So
Okay.
that's higher than national average.
Nice. So, all right, you're I when the females that I work with, I have one on my team actually. I'm in a specialized unit. We go around handling property crimes like burglars, thieves, stuff like that. So we're in undercover cars. We got marked units. We're like you said, we're a team. We go around and we catch these guys. Now, working directly with the female, you say it gets old having to knock and do all that stuff. I can tell you right now, the female that's on my team, she would just be like, "Get the hell out! I got to go to the bathroom." Like that's the type of we're that tight. We have that type of relationship on our team. It's really cool. What did it get to that point? Are you allowed to say? Were you guys, just another one of the guys is a way to say it, or was there like eggshells, like walking on eggshells about certain topics or anything like that?
No, I think obviously it becomes more comfortable throughout the years. I wasn't the first female. There were 2 actually prior to me, but neither one of them completed their careers. They both took an early retirement or went into something else. And so it wasn't as if there had never been a female at the station, but I was the first one for a little while.
Okay.
And and definitely, I have a female friend who is a police officer, and she's very much the same way, like, "Hey, jackass,
Yeah, yeah,
get the
yeah,
hell out. I
yeah,
have to go to the bathroom."
yeah,
Um, but it becomes a little bit different when you're not just working a shift in terms of, an 8 or a 12 or a 10, but you're actually working 24 hours. It becomes a little bit different because then there's, like, changing of clothes and taking of showers and things that
yeah.
just you wouldn't necessarily have to do as law enforcement.
Yeah, I
So it
wouldn't.
becomes a little bit more
That's a different
complicated.
dynamic. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I just got an alert that it's gonna rain. Uh, thunderstorms are coming. I hope it doesn't affect the sound. Um, yeah, that is something to consider and something for any female out there that wants to do the firefighting thing. I didn't even think about that. You guys do. You bunk up. You guys all sleep in the same room?
Yes and no. Yes, because, the personnel that are the blue shirts, the firefighters and the paramedics all have a common area with little three-quarter walls in between, but no doors. The officer of the station does have a separate bunk area, and so I've been an officer since 2014, and so I have had a separate, sleeping area, which is really nice, not just for the fact that it's separate, but for the fact of I don't have to listen to anyone else snore
Snoring.
anymore.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yep. I'm still in the military, but I definitely remember, going through basic and all that stuff. And oh my God, they're in good shape, but some people they snore, man, and it is hard to sleep through that.
Well, fun side fact, I learned this, my friend Dr. Allison Brigger is a sleep neuroscientist, and she's also a major in the Army, and she turned me on to this research that there's statistically a certain number of people in the general population have apnea, but generally those people are 60-year-old males with really fat necks and they're obese. There's a similar number percentage of people in the military that have apnea. But the problem is they're decades younger, they're in better shape, they're thinner. And so it is really interesting. And it's probably due to sleep deprivation, sleep disruption,
Ah.
feeding into that. So
That
it's
makes
interesting.
sense. Yeah, because I always associated snoring with just getting fatter. It's a better way to put it. I've seen it in my family. Um, most people, I'm 39. Most people in my family above me, higher in age, they didn't know what we know and what we grew up with health, or it wasn't as a focus. Like for me growing up, fast food was the devil. Like you did not like that was you ate that if you had no other options growing up. So I've always avoided fast food. I'll eat it as a last option, if I'm starving. But I've always avoided fast food. But everybody above me, heart issues, sugar issues, all that stuff, and they're like, "Oh, it's hereditary." I'm like, "Is it? Is it, or is it your lifestyle choices that you had and your dad had that now you're trying to say that it's hereditary?" Because I go to the doctor and the doc's like, "You're good to go."
Genetics loads the gun.
Yes.
Lifestyle pulls the trigger.
Yes, that's what I try to say. Now I know there's certain things that genetics just you're screwed. Like it's just part of the way it is. But I'm not gonna give it any help. Let's put it that way. So
You're going to go down fighting.
yes. All right. I'm trying to process this. You go through. You're dealing with now. You got in when?
2004.
And that is crazy to me. 2004, and it's still not set up for females.
2022, it's still not set up for females.
Right. Yeah. You still have one station that's not even set up for females. That is insane. That's crazy. Now I get there's money, there's budget issues, stuff like that, but there's certain things like you gotta handle. it's like during the civil riots and stuff like that, civil rights. It's like saying, well, we still have a black and a white fountain. We didn't have the budget yet to integrate everything. It's the same thing.
Right.
It's the same damn thing.
The new wave of the fire service, and we didn't go this way in our latest remodel that's going right now. So the very last station is getting remodeled. But the wave of the fire service is actually these individual suites. And so, regardless of your rank, regardless of whether you're an officer or not, you have this little bedroom suite with an adjoining bathroom, shower, sink. And that's kind of like your area for the day. And so that accounts for male, female. That also accounts for our transgender personnel and respecting them. And unfortunately, we didn't go in that direction, but that's where most firehouses that are remodeling are going.
Okay. Yeah, that's my big thing. I just want to sleep by myself. that would be my biggest concern. I can deal with the bathroom. Shoot, I'll run to the back of the firehouse. I'll run to the back of the department and be outside if I have to. No shame in my game, but not as easy for females, especially female cops. They got a lot of stuff to shed just to go pee. I feel bad for them.
Yes, that's a challenge.
I bet, especially, what do you guys call it? Bunker gear? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bunker gear. Well, we don't usually have that on, but at a fire, just imagine. Oh my goodness, I have to go to the bathroom. Yes. Oh dear.
All right. So you get through your first year. Your crew, everybody treats you cool. You're not the first female to come through, but you are the only female at the time. Mm-hmm. And as you're going through your career, promotions and all of that. So you said you promoted to officer. Is that a promotion, or is that just a different designation?
It's attested and put on a list and promoted in order of vacancy. So yes.
Okay. And in that, did you find any PT qualification standards or testing or anything? Was it geared towards guys? Was it pretty even keel for you? What did you think of that?
Are you referring to the promotional process or the hiring process?
The promotional process. I like, for us, like you in the military, for instance, like your PT, you have to take a PT test. You have to take your written test and all that stuff. They all have to match. So I didn't know if in firefighting, if you guys have to do both.
At least in our department, and I can speak for a lot of departments in the area, once you're hired, there are no ongoing fitness standards, which you go, that's really strange, but it's very common.
Mhm.
And so what we see is that we hire individuals likely in the best shape they're ever going to be in, and then we sleep deprive them for 20 to 30 years. We expose them to a ton of trauma, and then we wonder like why are they 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds overweight? We got to do something. Well, it's difficult to do something when you don't have performance standards. And so it's impossible to institute those as a reaction to people being overweight and obese. And so, in my opinion, this is something that we need to start phasing in. And if it needs to be grandfathered, and if we need to say, all of the people that are already hired, this doesn't affect you. It should, but this doesn't affect you. And then everyone we hire from this day forward has to pass a yearly fit for duty test. I think that's the way to phase it in. But I think we really do need to phase it in for the protection of the individual and their health, and also for the protection of the people they're working with. Because if you are morbidly obese, your chance of going down in a fire, of falling down during an extrication, um, and having some sort of an event is much higher. And then if you're morbidly obese, our chances of being able to get you out of that situation without hurting ourselves are declining. And so I really think this is something that the fire service needs to look at, especially since our candidates are coming in less physically fit than they were in the past. And I blame that directly on the fact that school systems no longer have required gym class. And instead of making school lunch, cooking it at the school, now they're using ultra processed, ultra palatable food, or worse yet, some campuses even have fast food right on the campus of the high school. And so our people coming in are less fit than ever, and they're in the best shape that they'll likely be during their whole career.
Yeah, where I'm at, we call it the grandfathered process. Basically, all those that are already in, they're not required to do the annual fitness test. However, you get $1,000 incentive if you go and you take it and you pass it. So that's how we're getting the old schools to at least stay fit enough to pass the PT test. Now, I will be the first to say the PT test that we do, it ain't that, like, you could still be really out of shape and pass it.
Mhm.
And I've seen it. I've seen people that are obese and get through, and then they're sucking wind in the corner and look like they're about to die or pass out. But they got $1,000 for it. So it incentivizes them, at least monetarily, and then maybe it triggers them to get in a little better shape, so the next time they do it, they're not killing themselves. And then everybody else has to take it that wasn't grandfathered in.
Well, it's really interesting. My best friend is a police officer. We got hired really close and close to each other, and then we met on a call maybe 4 months after he got hired, and we've been best friends ever since. And so I'm privy to some of the things that go on in the local police department, but they attempted to incentivize fitness. And from what I understand, they can earn $300 cash just for completing this really small obstacle course. It's not difficult, it's not timed. You don't have to pass it, you don't fail it, you just have to do it. And they have very low percentage of participation.
Yes, yeah, that is a thing. I have. There are people that won't even attempt to do it. They don't want the $1,000, and that's crazy to me. I'm like, screw that. I'm going to get my money. I'm required to do it regardless, but as long as I finish it, I get the incentive as well. So it's nice. Me personally, as a cop, which firefighters don't have to worry about as much. I would rather my department pay for me to go to pay for a membership to a grappling school.
Yes.
Like jiu-jitsu is if I'm going to pin it on just one thing, it's going to be jiu-jitsu. That's my favorite. But, catch wrestling, judo, all of those things, it will make you, one, it'll make you healthier. Two, it will make you a safer officer, and it will make you, anytime it lessens your use of force on bad guys. So, meaning I can keep the bad guy safe, even though I'm physically manipulating him, I can keep him safer, and I don't have to go to my gun. I don't have to go to my taser or these intermediate to deadly force weapons because I am trained. I am confident in my skill set. A confident officer is a safer officer. Safety for everybody, not just themselves. And they go from thinking with that lizard brain during the fight or flight to thinking with their frontal cortex lobe, whatever they call that. I'm not a doctor.
Prefrontal cortex.
Yes, that thing, I try to talk like I know what I'm saying, but yeah. So the same with firefighting. If you, like you said, if you can start to incentivize it, you have to have it and you got to implement it. Trick is, how do we do that? But before we transition into that, I want to hit one last thing. You go through, you're an officer now. Is there are we going to go higher?
No.
Done?
No. Once, a few years ago, we eliminated the rank of captain. So I am a lieutenant. I would have formally been able to promote to captain, and then we have a battalion chief. And I explain the battalion chief is they are a chief officer, but they are an on-duty babysitter. So they work the same shifts that we do. They don't work admin hours of 7 to 4, 7 to 5. So I could aspire to promote to battalion chief, but it's outside of the bargaining unit. And it just, that job especially has become very, very administrative in nature in the last few years. And so it doesn't appeal to me. And I think that there's other people that would be great at it. So I'm going to stay right where I am.
Yeah. I mean, if you're happy with what you're doing, there's no need. That's what I try to tell some of the younger officers. Like, I need to do this, I need to do that so I can get here, get there. I'm like, are you going to enjoy it? If you're not happy in your career, if you love what you're doing now, unless you're looking out for your retirement, because some of the newer officers, like, they have to promote for their retirement to be decent when they get out. So I'm like, you got, a 25, 30-year career here. There's no rush. But if you're looking out for your pension, then yes, start moving up, get where you got to go. But okay, so you're going to stay as a lieutenant, and you'll go from that and your other career, and that's what I want to transition into. So we are talking about fitness, wellness, things of that nature in first responders work. We'll focus on firefighting because that's what your realm is. I've actually had another person on here that focuses on fitness for police, because we work those weird shifts. Like you said, we don't do the 24-hour thing, but we work the 3 shifts in a day. You got your morning shift, your evening shift, and then the midnight guys. And the midnight guys really get screwed.
They do.
The midnight guys, the only thing available to eat is 7-Eleven, or some gas station food, or maybe some of the late night, down here in Whataburger. Oh, you guys got Whataburger now too. I believe Illinois bought it. Some company in Chicago bought Whataburger, which is a Texas-based company. So,
oh wait, is that the Marky Mark?
Nope, that's Wahlburgers.
Oh,
that's the Wahlburgers. So you'll see it. It'll be coming up there. It's called Whataburger. It's this orange and white monstrosity of a building. I'm an In-N-Out guy. If I'm going to eat some fast food burger, it's going to be In-N-Out. But yeah, so with the midnight officers, there's just nothing available. That's why kettlebells are my favorite thing in the world, because if you're a midnight cop, carry a kettlebell in the car. Secure it. Don't let it roll around because it'll screw your car up. Kettlebells are really good makeshift gym that you can do in 10 minutes while you're sitting there and there's no calls. But on the fire side, now we're talking 24 hours, 48 hours. Just depends, especially in Illinois if y'all get snowed in, which is a possibility. Fitness becomes a big thing. And you guys aren't, in my personal opinion and what I've seen, it's not that you're going, it's not a casual buildup when it comes to your heart rate going up. You guys have to run and throw on a ton of gear, which weighs, how much does bunker gear weigh?
Pounds.
What's that? 60 pounds?
62 pounds with an air pack minus a tool. Okay. So you're probably close to 70 pounds if you're carrying a pump can or a tool.
Right. So we're talking elevated heart rate, and then it comes back down while you're riding, and then then you hear what the call is. If it's like a big fire, then your heart rate's just going to naturally go up because you're juiced if you're not a seasoned veteran. So now you just keep this heart rate keeps going up and down, up and down. And then once you get on scene, now you got to run around, lift things, move things, break doors down. That is hectic on the body. And like you said, if you don't have PT requirements and you're not taking care of your physical fitness, this is a danger for first responders. So I want you to give me your perspective. How did you get into this side of the house?
I was actually in this side of the house before I even started at the fire department. So in the early 90s, I was teaching group exercise. I was personal training. I was accumulating knowledge on all things health and wellness. And so when I started at the fire service, I kind of let that fitness career go. I stopped working at the wellness center. I stopped personal training clients there, but I started training them at my house. And so I built a gym and I was training general population. So youth athletes, I was training weight loss, I was training all kinds of different demographics. And one day I sort of woke up. I don't mean I got out of bed and woke up. I mean, I opened my eyes and woke up and I thought, I have a skill set that is somewhat unparalleled because knowing it from both sides, doing the job and the actual credentialing and experience with exercise, I have a skill set that is very helpful. The fire department, the fire service is a very big fan, and I think the police side of the house is a fan as well of this sort of train the trainer concept, meaning you get a new brand of taser. I'll try to muddle through an example. You get a new brand of taser. You send one person to learn all of the nuances about the taser, and then that person comes back and teaches everyone else.
Right.
We're big fans of that too. So we get a new ladder truck. We get a new forcible entry prop. We send 1 or 2 or 3 people to learn all of the nuances about this, and then they come back and teach us. And it's a great model. It works really well for tasers, ladder trucks, forcible entry props, but they try to do it with human performance too. And there's just too much to it to task someone who has a 40-hour training on it, to task them with the mental and physical health and wellness of their coworkers. Because let's be honest, it's not knowledge. You don't lack knowledge. I don't lack knowledge. Everyone has knowledge to some extent. What they lack is implementation, and a lot of it's the mental component too. So even I, with 30 years experience in health and wellness, I sometimes go, man, I don't know enough. I need to learn more. And yet we take these people that have been, trained for 40 hours and expect them to be able to solve the problems of everyone else. And so I identified the need for expertise, someone who has the knowledge from the firefighting perspective and someone who has the actual knowledge from the health and wellness perspective. And I put those together to form my business. And so I have been approached by law enforcement agencies. And for the most part, I usually tell them I'm not the person. I could do it. I could. But I want them to have a really good experience with someone who's an expert with what they're doing as well, instead of someone who thinks, someone who makes up a taser example and thinks they know what they're talking about. And so Fire Rescue Wellness, I formed in 2016, I believe it was. And I now do different types of work with a lot of departments. So I do everything from managing their entire health and wellness program to on-site visit, where I visit their facilities, their stakeholders. I look at their needs. I do a needs analysis, and then I come back with suggestions of where they can begin with implementation, to a one-off lecture where I do a Zoom webinar with the department, to a lecture series, to all kinds of different services. So basically, I solve health and wellness problems for fire departments.
Very nice. The trick, or I shouldn't say the trick, the thing that I want anybody getting into these career fields, we'll stick with fire especially, to understand is there's, I guess, 3 or 4 major components to your health: your mental health, your physical health, your nutrition. I guess, yeah, so three that I can think of off the top of my head. If one of those is out of whack, it all falls apart. It's like a domino effect is what I see. And typically where we really start to fall apart is our nutrition, I think. What do you see? What do you see with that?
I'm going to challenge you. I'm going
Okay.
to add a bucket. I have 4 buckets,
Okay.
and my first bucket is sleep. And when you have sleep deprivation or poor quality sleep, it affects everything. It
Yeah.
affects your nutrition and metabolism. It affects your mental health
Hormones.
/ mindfulness,
Yeah.
hormones. Yep.
Yeah.
Both in short term and long term. There are immediate effects of one night of sleep deprivation, and then there are intermediate, and then there are long term. But anyway, the 4 buckets: sleep, nutrition, mental health, and then movement. And I'm a strength and conditioning coach, but I actually put the movement bucket as the last priority because, in my opinion, sleep and nutrition and mental health are more impactful, can be more impactful. And in fact, sleep, if you can just sleep better, everything gets better. Everything gets better.
Yes. I have made it, and maybe I just got lucky with some of the education that I've come across, talking about 8 hours. 8 hours, like, the way I look at it, I'm handling a gun. Every time I'm in a situation, there's a gun brought to the scene, whether it's mine or the bad guy has his own gun, but I'm bringing a gun to the scene. And sleep is the simplest way to fix some of the mental acuity issues that you start to have, bad decision making. I don't want to have a gun in my hand and be sleep deprived. And I've got full control over that. And I like sleep. I, I like getting good sleep. So my family knows, like, once dad goes to bed, leave him alone. Don't, because of that. And I've made it such a priority in this household, because just like you said, sleep it is that I agree with you on that. So you didn't have to challenge me on the 4th bucket. I'm with you on that. I guess I just kind of considered sleep and physical health the same thing, but I guess that kind of goes into mental as well. So, but yes, I'm with
It
you
has
on
a
that.
direct impact, and especially, I have this in a slideshow, and I can't remember for police, so I will just address fire because I know this for sure. Sleep deprivation is an independent risk factor for the top 4 things that kill our firefighters: suicide, cancer, cardiovascular disease, and motor vehicle accidents. Sleep independently affects all of those things. And then going back to your carrying a gun and being sleep deprived, I just read a fun study about this. In police officers, you would expect veteran officers to make better, quick decisions on shoot, no shoot. You would expect that. But then we see these articles in the newspaper at the, veteran officer accidentally shoots unarmed teenager or whatever. And you think, how did a veteran make that mistake? Because the longer they've been on the department, the more sleep deprived they've been for a number of years, and the more cognitively, because there's cognitive decline when you're
Mm-hmm.
sleep deprived. And so it's really sad, but when you are a veteran, you're not as smart about some things as you were when you were a rookie, just because of the sleep deprivation.
Yeah, I didn't know that it accumulates over the long term. I didn't know that
Yeah.
that was a thing. So that's interesting.
Well, and small tangent, short-term effect of one night of sleep deprivation is accumulation of these protein particles in your brain. So they're called tau and beta amyloid particles. And they're supposed to get washed away while you sleep, but if you don't sleep, they accumulate. And so even after just one night of sleep deprivation, they start to accumulate. But those are the hallmarks of cognitive decline and dementia and
Oh,
Alzheimer's.
okay.
So you can actually increase your risk of cognitive, we'll call it disease processes, by long-term sleep deprivation. So it's back to that genetics thing. There's
Yeah.
a genetic component to those cognitive diseases, but there's also this lifestyle component. So sleep is very important.
Yeah, one of the things that I learned from one of my mentors, he's in my department, Buck Wheeler. He really harps on when you're working those midnight shifts. Obviously, your nutrition like can start to dip if you start. I packed a lunch most of the time. I was trying to eat clean best I could, but your hormones, your cortisol levels, just from not seeing the sun, like your cortisol levels will start to dip. Not to mention, you start to get sleep deprived, the less sleep. All of these things really affect your hormone levels. Your testosterone will dip, your cortisol levels go up. And what happens with an officer, anyways, you get moody. And moody officers get into more shit because their mouth got them into a situation that wouldn't have normally had happened if they were working in the daytime and taking care of all of these pillars that we're talking about as far as fitness, nutrition, and mental health stuff, sleep. And that's what I want all these new guys, new girls trying to get into these career fields to start consider. If you start thinking about this stuff right from the get-go, you're so far ahead of where I was when I came in, because I didn't learn about this shit till I'd been doing it probably 10 years. And, between the military and police life, I didn't know any of this stuff. So here I am coming down to Texas and going through an academy, and here's this instructor getting up there, and it's one of the first classes we take in our academy is health and wellness.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's so good.
Yeah. So that's one of the first classes we had. And from that day on, my nerdy side, I was like, oh, you just told me all the science behind this stuff. And we're, talking just about the same words that the Tao and the stuff. I remember that in the class now that you bring it up, him mentioning that stuff. And that the light bulbs start going off, and it really made my career that much better. And at least at the academy that I went to here, the rookies have they get that base knowledge right from the get-go. But not everybody does. I mean, you and I are talking about it. You have to, through your fire rescue wellness, your website, by the way, I got down here, firerescuewellness.org. So if anybody's interested in seeing Annette's stuff, she's got a badass website. I checked it out. She's like right on the front. She's like, what up?
Well, I love that I think it was you, but maybe it was me, we called these buckets. People, when I talk to them about sleep, because I've been doing a lecture series on sleep at a department that's local to me. And I have one of my last slides is do the best with what you can. And when you know better, do better. And my conversation around that slide is, I get it. I get you're going through a divorce. Your mom has cancer. Your child is whatever. I get it.
Yeah.
Sleep is tough. I get it. But if you can fill up those other 3 buckets while you're not able to sleep, if you can consciously make better nutrition decisions, and side note, make those on autopilot, because you packing your lunch is huge. If you don't pack your lunch in advance, you're going to eat what's available when you're hungry. So put those things on autopilot, your nutrition, and then your mindfulness or seeing a counselor, and then your movement, just going for a walk or something like that. Fill those buckets up as much as you can, and that helps soften the impact of that sleep deprivation. But if you are emptying all of those buckets at the same time, you're going to feel miserable, and it's going to have an impact on both your physical and mental health.
Yeah. And the encouraging thing I like to tell people that have been in that shitty lifestyle for so long, all their buckets are empty, like they're not doing any of them. you get to a level where that feels normal. You don't feel crappy anymore.
Yes.
Like, because crappy is normal for you. And then when you start to try to fill those buckets up, it's tough. And you're like, fuck this. This ain't, like, I feel way better when I'm not doing all this crap. You have to give it time. It's a marathon. It ain't a sprint. So in my experience anyway, give that time until you'll feel it. It's weird. You're actually changing chemical reactions in your body. And when you finally hit those good chemical reactions, you're going to feel it. You'll be like, oh my God, I feel amazing. I'm not hurting anymore. I sleep way better. I feel better when I eat clean food. That's the big one. Like for me, my wife got Chick-fil-A the other day. She's like, hey, we don't have any food in the fridge. I'm going to stop by Chick-fil-A. Do you want it? I'm like, yeah, I'll do Chick-fil-A. I eat it. 10 minutes later, I'm running to the bathroom to take a crap, and I feel crappy. That's how it is. That's my body's reaction when I eat bad food. Opposed to had I just got, I love sourdough bread, so it's good gut health reaction for anybody that's like, well, sourdough, that's old school. It's good. You just don't eat it all the time. But I'll eat a sandwich. Sandwiches are clean. You're eating meat. You're eating, a piece of cheese. I love cheese. So it's way better than eating a Chick-fil-A sandwich. And I feel good when I eat. If I go for a run, like I like to run, if I go for a run after eating that sandwich, I use that food as fuel rather than thinking of it as eating clean. I look at it as fuel for my body. So I'll eat that sandwich from Chick-fil-A and go run, and I'll feel it in the run. So I try to tell people, if you're living that crappy lifestyle all the time, you have a hurdle to climb. Once you get over that hurdle, everything opens up. And then when you do eat a bad meal, or you let one of these slip, you are much more attuned to your body than you were when you felt crappy all the time.
Well, my girl, Maureen Stockline, who is actually a badass female firefighter, she's soon to be retiring, and she was the former dietitian for the Mets, and now she is the dietitian for the the Detroit Tigers. Maureen always says, yeah, she's
people.
badass.
That's somewhere I'm from. Oh, wrong way. Michigan.
Yeah. So Maureen says, give it 2 weeks. You have no idea how good you can really feel. And then, so she's very middle of the road with her nutrition stuff, making things a little bit better instead of a little bit worse, drinking adequate water, nothing crazy. But if you just give it 2 weeks, you will be astounded at how good you can feel.
Yes. Anybody out there is like, oh, I can't drink water. I like carbonated stuff. Like, I'm not a pop drinker. Soda, Texas guys. Sorry. You say pop up there, right?
I use both. Both.
See, I can hear your accent. Both.
Both.
Yeah, it's a Midwest thing. I like carbonation stuff, but I like water. It's not a problem for me. I'm not addicted to drinking soda or anything like that, but that is a common problem for first responders. They get hooked on Cokes and not cocaine, Coke, the pop, Sprites, whatever, Pepsis. I have discovered, because I like carbonation, at Walmart, this thing called Clear American. 0 calories, 0 sugar, 0 everything. It's just a flavored water with bubbles. And if that's an easy transition for you guys. If you are hooked on pop and you can't get off of that, look for these things, man. There's one by Michael Bublé called Bubbly, I guess it's called. Like, he advertised it. It tastes horrible. It tastes like it. It's so bad. I think Clear American is copying the drink that I used to drink all the time when I was a kid called Clearly Canadian. Do you remember that?
Yes, but it was so sickeningly sweet. It was artificial sweetener, I think.
Yes.
But yeah, the cherry, whatever cherry,
Black
I did
cherry,
like that.
Yeah, that was a good one. So I remember drinking those as a kid. So for me, like I said, this is a good transition, especially if you're starting to work out, because there's 150 grams of potassium in these as well. So I like having potassium because I get
Can we
cramps.
talk about energy drinks though?
Oh yeah, I mean I got one of those right here too, so it's not opened.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So,
Let's get on energy drinks.
full disclosure, I have been addicted to energy drinks more than one time in my life. So I understand. I get it. But really important to know. I think at least if you're going to be addicted to heroin, you should have your eyes wide open. Like, what does that mean? How does that work? So same thing with energy drinks. I'm not comparing them. I'm not saying they're as addictive as heroin. Don't get me wrong, but I think you should have your eyes wide open. Now, the maximum dosage of caffeine at one given time is 200 milligrams. That's the maximum you should take. And then I believe it's the US RDA recommends no more than 400 milligrams in one day. So they're saying 200 milligrams every 4 to 6 hours should be your maximum, and then 400 in a day. And that's if you're a fast metabolizer of caffeine. Most people don't know if they're fast metabolizer or slow metabolizer. So 400 milligrams maximum. So a Monster is 160. That's below that threshold. I don't know what the Mountain Dew energy drink thing is, but Bang Energy is 300
300,
milligrams,
baby.
300 milligrams of caffeine. So now you have that all at once, which is kind of bad. I call it AFib in a can. It's kind of bad,
That's your heart.
but but here's the other thing we need to remember about all energy drinks. So this is Monster, Bang, Celsius, all of them. When you look at the label, a lot of times they have proprietary blends. So we don't know what that is exactly. But what we do know about these energy drinks is that in addition to this mega dose of caffeine, they're neurotoxic to the brain.
Ooh.
So we're already in this career where we're sleep depriving our brain and causing ourselves issues there. We're traumatizing our brain. And now we are feeding it neurotoxic agents. And so, again, I think every adult human should do whatever the hell makes them happy.
Yeah.
And if drinking 3 bangs a day makes them happy,
Ooh.
I'm not going to lecture. But you just need to know,
Yeah.
eyes wide open, hell of a lot of caffeine and neurotoxic.
Yes.
Drop the mic.
I already know 300 milligrams is a shit ton of caffeine. So when I do drink them, I don't drink them daily. I'm not one of those guys. I know a lot of cops that, I got to get 2 bangs just to get through shift. I'm like, Jesus, dude. If I open one of those at 8 a.m., I'm not done till noon. Like that can will last me that long. I just sip it, just like I would coffee. But in Texas, when it gets hot, I don't want coffee anymore. And it's already starting to kind of get hot. So I switch over to Bang occasionally, not daily. But yes, I know you're right. I need to I need to get off of them completely. But every once in a while, hey.
And truly, if it is every once in a while, who
Yeah.
cares? I mean, if you go on a drinking bender every once in a while, who cares? And you don't drive and you don't hurt anybody.
Right, yeah,
You don't
yeah.
get in any
You
fights.
Uber. Yeah.
Right. Who cares? And if you eat a whole entire pepperoni pizza and a side order of cheese sticks by yourself once in a while, who cares?
Yeah.
But it's this typical behavior that we're doing all the time that becomes a problem.
Yes. And with our career fields and these first responders, I think one of the ways we combat this in the future, and for our communities out there, this is what I want our communities to start pushing towards your academies. Like, you want changes. You want, you got these ideas, defund, or they need this training, they need that training. One of the primary things I think you want, because you want longevity out of your investment. And that's what your first responders are. They're an investment. You have to do an extensive background check for your firefighters, for your cops, just to get them through the door.
Mm-hmm.
So invest into that long term. Keep them out in the field as long as you can. You don't want, your 10-year firefighter getting injured on the job from this buildup and lack of education in health and wellness. And then he's on a medical retirement that you all got to pay out anyway. And now you're not getting the benefits of him.
Departments often ask me, how how can we afford this? How can we afford health and wellness services? And my answer is you can't afford not to have them. Your
Yeah.
return on investment from just one back injury, from just one shoulder injury, from one person going out on cardiovascular disease 10 years prior to retirement is huge. And so, it's upstream. You're never going to be able to say, point your finger and say, we prevented 8 cardiovascular diseases and 4 back injuries. But the proof is in the pudding. The
Yeah.
research is out there. Health and wellness is a good investment.
Yep. When you've got a 12 to 17-year veteran that's still out in the field and hasn't taken any sort of medical leave other than normal sicknesses and stuff like that, that's when you start to notice. You're like, man, our staffing is still high despite the older veterans being out there and not being off on some sort of comp time, or not comp time. What is it called? What is that when you're light duty?
Oh, light duty, yeah.
Yeah. So you're out on light duty and stuff like that. It pays for itself, just like you said. It's an investment into the future, and I think between health and wellness needs to be one of those top priorities. Yes, you want them trained in, like for cops, verbal judo, de-escalation. That's good stuff, but there's other things that you need to put in front of that priority. What's the other big one for firefighters? When you guys go around checking for nuclear radiation and stuff like that.
Oh,
Hazmat stuff. Like, yeah, that's good training to have, but I still think health and wellness should be in front of hazmat, because how often are you dealing with a hazmat situation versus health and wellness is every day. Every day.
Well, this is a great analogy. We spend sometimes $1.5 million or more on a vehicle, and then we spend the money on a warranty, and we spend the money on the mechanic. We have in-house mechanics at our department who take care of our vehicles. Why? Because we want them to last and we want them to not break down. So why then, if our employees are our biggest cost to the department and our biggest investment, why do we not have people taking care of them so they don't break down?
Exactly. Yeah. You can't argue with that logic, but they will.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that we do is we say, listen, sucker, you raised your right hand and you said, I swear to uphold and protect and all of those things. And once you did that, you lost your right to be out of shape and to be broken, which in some respects, yes. But also, we don't hire a NFL team does not recruit a quarterback and then just say, good luck, fucker.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope you don't get killed on the field. They invest in them, coaches, and nutrition and strength and conditioning and mental health and those people are not playing a game of life and death. They are literally playing a game.
Yeah.
And we're not making that same investment into our first responders.
Right. And like I want to preach on this is that the return you get when you invest it pays for itself. I mean,
It does.
And it's not just, yes, I think we should really be looking out for our first responders, but at the same time, you try to make choices what's best for the community. That's best for the community. That is what is good for the people you are trying to serve in the first place.
And we do have to take ownership. I do not take the ownership away from that firefighter that raised their hand. They are responsible. They do need to invest in their own health and wellness and not take it for granted. But they are not health and wellness experts, just like a quarterback is not a human performance expert. And so they need resources.
Yeah, they need help. They need help.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's no different than signing up to be a cop. I wasn't a firearm. I'm still not a firearms expert, but I didn't know how to shoot. Point and click. Like that's how I would have thought of it getting into police work. Like you just aim it. No, there's a lot to it. There's a lot more to just shooting a gun than what you would think. Um, they need to show you that stuff. They can't just expect to give you the gun and then you go out there and know how to use it. So you have to walk just like everything else. You have to walk us through and give us the best fighting chance we got once we are cut loose, once we get out there, and continue that. It can't just be everything's a perishable skill.
And further, we are not disposable. We are to some extent. If I go off the job tomorrow, they're just going to put someone else in my position and it's going to march on.
Right.
But do we really want to be treating our first responders as disposable? I don't think so.
No. And then nobody's going to sign. Like I said, and this goes back to the quality of recruitment. If you start treating us that have been doing the job that way, especially the ones that have been doing it as long as we have, if you get rid of that, what message are you sending to the newer generation that we're even just thinking about doing this stuff? They ain't gonna sign up to. Why would you sign up for that? Go get an office job where, you can get off work at a decent time and go to a cool gym and do whatever you want to do. But yeah, not go out and risk your life, and then they're just gonna toss you to the side. Like that's a bad message to send.
It is a bad message. And for a while, we were doing a good job. I think for the last 3 years, I was invited to come and talk to our new recruits on the first day. So they would do their paperwork for insurance and they would check the mark or whatever, and then I would sit with them for an hour and I would talk to them. I would talk to them about health and wellness and suicide prevention and all of these things. And we were doing that so consistently. And then we hired a group last fall and there wasn't room on the schedule. And then we hired this group just this last Thursday and there wasn't room on the schedule. So it has become less of a priority. And I think that that's something that shouldn't, all of those things are important. Every single one of those things are important. Pension, health insurance, retirement, union stuff, they're all important. But all encompassing health and wellness message, also very important.
Yeah, and you're not going to get to your pension if you didn't take care of your health and wellness. So again, it goes like that should be the first thing that you're seeing in an academy, whether it's firefighting or police work. And it also is the block training mentality too that I hate. At where I'm at, that health and wellness stuff, it doesn't end in the classroom that first week or two, however long that class is. We continue the message while you're out on the CT deck, while you're out doing control tactics, while you're out doing PT. Not only do we teach you, how to eat and what you should eat and what to focus on and stuff like that. We teach you proper form. We teach you how to lift. We baby step you through every process. So when you do this over the course of 8 months, it wasn't just in that first block and then go. You are learning. It's in this I don't know the word for it, but accumulative. It's a cumulative learning throughout the academy, so it sticks with you longer and hopefully anchors itself into your brain, and you build the habits over a long time versus, all right, first month is all your PT stuff. Second month, we're going to have you doing your action stuff. Third month, we're going to have you put all that together and for a test, and then you're done. You ain't going to remember shit from that first month.
I think I love that accumulating theory too, because almost on a weekly basis, someone reaches out to me from a department somewhere and says, we still have this mentality of toughening people up and like sorting out the trash and all of this stuff. And so we have this approach during our academy of just killing them in PT. And then those that make it are like, woo, those are the winners. But the problem that they're having is that they're creating a distaste and disdain for physical fitness training, not a love for it. Because even someone who loves it, me, was a little put off by the physical training in the academy, that kill you
Yeah.
method. And so we have to be careful. We need to, like you said, make it accumulate, make
Mhm.
it building blocks, create that love and relationship with physical training rather than create that disdain for it. You have to be careful.
Yes, so there's gonna people that are gonna want to bite your head off, and I'm gonna rescue that real quick because when we do that, it's not so necessary, I think, in firefighting as it is in police work. Um, it's that boot camp style, basic training. Um, it's a stress inoculation. Now, the argument that I have is like, listen, it doesn't have to be physical fitness that we kill them on. It just has to be stress inoculation. It's giving them tasks that, one, they can't do alone. It's going to involve teamwork. That's kind of one of the things we want to see if you're thinking through. And two, it's multiple decision makings. We're stressing you out. I want to stress you out. I don't need to stress you out physically and kill you to get the reaction I'm looking for and to get the brain to slow down and start thinking through things, because that's really what I want to do. And typically in an academy, it's only the first hour that they're there anyway, because after that first hour, now you got to go shower up and then you go into the classroom. So I challenge anybody out there that is an instructor, like, step back for a second. It's not basic training. The whole point, you got to look at what your point is. You're not just trying to be a dick. You're not trying to burn them into the ground physically. That's not the point. The point is stress inoculation. So stress them out in different ways, but you can throw in PT, push-ups, sit-ups, all that stuff. I try to tell them, don't have them lift anything at the beginning because you got to build them up anyway. Um, calisthenics is about as much body weight as all you should be doing at the beginning.
I have a perfect guest for you to talk on this, but I have to press pause for 1 second because I think my battery is dying. So hold please, I'll be back.
Okay, no worries. I'll keep chatting while you go. This will be a good time to plug Annette's stuff. You can go to her website, firerescuewellness.org. I have got the website popped up right here. It's all spelled out. And then you can find her on Instagram at Fire Rescue Wellness, all one word on Instagram. I got that on the screen right now if you're a person that likes to watch. And then Twitter, you can find her at Fire Rescue Well. For whatever reason, Twitter would not let her name it Wellness, so it's Fire Rescue Well, and that is her stuff there. Be sure to visit our page at twocopsonedonut.com. That's all spelled out. If you accidentally get on there and you type in the number 2 cops and the number 1 donut, you'll still find me. Donut, we do not spell it the old school way. It's spelled D-O-N-U-T. If you're just listening, please, 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 please help me justify videoing all these podcasts. Go to the YouTube and subscribe at 2 Cops 1 Donut. And then shout out to my sponsors. I don't usually do this middle, but Impact Tactical, that's impacttactical.com. And my gun company, not my gun company, my buddy's gun company, Sergeant Paul Ware, hrhcombatarms.com. But Annette is back. She is plugged in. She's got her battery going. It happens.
I thought, I think it might be time to get a new computer because it was like 92%. I'm like, it'll be good enough. And then I saw it go.
Uh-oh. What computer are you using?
It is a HP. I don't know. It's
Okay.
like 3 years old.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's ancient in computer times.
All right. So stress inoculation.
Yes.
Which, yes, I understand that. We need that. But PTing someone to death is not the way. And my friend, man, COVID sucked, but I made good new friends that I probably never would have met otherwise. And I met Troy Torrance. And Troy is I don't know what his exact title is, but he's a strength and conditioning specialist just like me. But he's a civilian that has worked with Indiana State Police for, I think, 20 years now. And Troy has the most amazing cognitive drills and stress inoculation stuff. So, for example, yeah, he'll maybe have them do 10 box jumps or something like that. And then you'll see them over at a table trying to thread nuts onto little bolts, like really fine motor skills. And then also picking out number cards and putting them in order, responding to visual acuity tests. He's amazing. You should have a conversation with Troy for sure.
That
He's
would be
so
awesome. Yeah, I like that stuff. That's one of the things for use of force that we train our recruits in is we do a simulated fight is the best way I can explain it. One is on the ground and the other would be on their feet like boxing. But before we do that, we make them go through Metcons and it physically exhaust them. And we try to show them like, you're already stressed out because you know you're about to get in a fight. Now I've physically stressed you out. Now go through and think while you're being picked apart by an instructor, basically. Controlled, it's a safe environment, but for them, that fight or flight mode can kick in, and then we show them, and then we do something similar towards the end of the academy where they're physically fit. The PT, again, didn't even wear them out, and then they go against each other, and they realize that they can sit back and think through and not use all that energy that they normally would use. So the fine motor skills, we try to show them like, look, here at the beginning, you couldn't even remove somebody's hand from your face. You couldn't think through that, because what we'll do is we'll get them on the ground and then we'll just smother their face. Just do that, and all they have to do is move the hand, and we'll stop. And they can't even think that far ahead. They just start tapping out, and they're struggling, just moving their head back and forth because they're physically exhausted. And once you start getting physically exhausted, fine motor skills, all the thinking, all that stuff starts going out the window. But yeah, I like that type of stuff. So if you guys into that, that'd be very cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll get a lot of shit from other cops for having a Stady on here, but
He's a civilian.
He's okay.
Yeah.
He's a civilian guy. All
Works for the Indiana State Police, so I don't know. Does that
okay.
count as a
Yeah,
Stady?
that'd be good. Yeah, that'd be fun.
But I can hook you up. Troy's awesome.
Sweet.
He's an amazing practitioner.
That's what's cool about doing the podcast too. I constantly keep getting networked into cooler and cooler people. Like Chris obviously had his, and then he hooked me up with you. And did you guys work together, or did you meet through? How did you guys meet?
We actually met a couple years ago at the Illinois Firefighter Peer Support Symposium. I was speaking that year, and then his wife, Lori, she wrote an outstanding blog for my website, which actually hasn't been ported over to the new website yet, but it was so good. She wrote about her experience with his post-traumatic stress injury and growth, so it was really cool. And then we just stay connected through social media and texting and all that good stuff. He is such a cool dude.
Yeah, it's cool to get a veteran, like he's been doing it almost 30 years. So getting him on there and then talking about he's the one that converted me to calling it PTS, not PTSD. So I'm trying to curb my vernacular on that. But this stuff that we're talking about is another way to help deal with the accumulative trauma that we see just in the job.
So, absolutely. And if we revisit your analogy or your story about the recruits that just have to move the hand off the mouth, we take our nervous systems offline by fear and poor breathing mechanics and all of that stuff. And so if they don't learn anything else from this whole podcast, I tell everyone, take a breath.
Tactical breathing. That's what we
take an inhale, take an exhale, and that brings you back online. And no, you probably don't have time to sit there and take 5 deep cleansing breaths in a circular motion. Take one.
Yeah.
One breath. One breath.
Yep. It lowers your blood pressure. I mean, everything. It's crazy what just taking a good breath will do for you.
Yes, just breathe.
Yep.
Your nervous system will thank you.
Yep. So in all your years of doing this with the wellness and the firefighting, you got to have some good stories, some good feel-good stories, or maybe some bad stories to learn from. Any big things come to mind about this stuff?
Unfortunately, the way the human brain works, you always remember the bad stuff much more clearly than the good stuff. But what I what I would tell and what I do tell people who want to get into the career is that I start with the bad stuff. I say, I'm going to tell you everything you want to know about this career, but I'm going to tell you the challenging bad things first. And so I tell them, the simple things. You're going to miss meals with your family, you're going to miss holidays. And then I tell them, you're going to see things that your brain isn't designed to see. I, in fact, learned this from Chris. He's the one that told me that the average adult sees between 1 and 5 traumas, with the most people seeing 2 to 3 in their entire lifetime. We could see 2 to 3 traumas in the course of a couple of hours during our career. And so I just make sure that people understand that there are bad parts and there are shortcomings, and not to make it negative, but to make sure that they have the most positive experience possible. And then I love to see, as far as positive things go, I just love to see people who come up to me a year later, 5 years later, and say, you know, you made a difference, and you taught me about sleep, or you taught me about whatever. You made a difference. And that to me that's a huge win.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's and I take the Joe Rogan approach on this stuff for people like you. Totally recommend you do your own podcast, and get messages out like that. But that's been one of the rewarding things with doing this, is getting to meet people like you, but having peers reach out to me and say, man, like, that was a good episode, dude. Like, I learned a lot from that. Keep doing what you're doing. I had an episode with an officer that was dealing with PTSD stuff, taking medications for a shooting that he was involved in years and years prior. I've had people reach out from the state of Washington all the way to Washington, D.C. So we're talking all the way across the map, saying, hey, I saw that episode. I was contemplating whether or not I should go on medications. I thought it was kind of like made me look like a pussy, that stuff like that. And I listened to that episode, and I'm finally getting on it. So I appreciate you putting that out there, or him coming on and talking. And then the one in DC was like, yeah, I showed some clips to my guys in roll call, like little things like that. Like, that feeds the fuel for me to keep doing this. So I imagine teaching the health and wellness, when you get recruits or people that you caught earlier in their careers coming to you years later and saying, like, I really appreciate, I've been doing this, been doing that, and your career is probably flourishing. I never hear anybody say, man, I listen to all that stuff about health and wellness and it ain't doing shit for me. I never heard that.
Well, unless they're listening but not applying, which is generally this
Right.
is our problem in our society. We know, but we don't do.
Yes. I try to get people on. They're like, well, you always look like you're fit. I'm like, trust me, looking fit and being fit are two different things, because when COVID hit me, I was 6 months, maybe 7, out of the gym, not doing anything. Wow. It messed with my brain chemistry, everything. Like, I had like a brain fog. I just could not get myself to do anything. It was almost like a borderline depression. It really messed me up. And it took me 3-4 months just to realize what was going on. And then, another few months of talking to some people and being like, maybe I just need to force myself to go and start creating these chemical changes in my brain and hormonal changes and stuff. And that's really what it was. I had to go to the gym every day for about 2 weeks before my brain finally was like, this is what we were looking for.
Wow.
Yeah, because I probably, it's funny, if you watch my first couple episodes of this podcast, the video part, I was like fit, like these sleeves on this shirt would not be loose. I was like pretty big for me. I was only 190 pounds. I'm 190 pounds now. There's a huge difference in my body compared to a year ago. And that was because of COVID. COVID just threw me apart. So you can be skinny fat. I try to tell people that you can be skinny fat. It happens. Had a buddy I worked with had a heart attack. He'd been in the career field 20 years. had a heart attack right behind us in the cubicle behind us. I heard him fall out. Luckily, we had one of those AEDs there. Brought him back, but he found out that he was clogged up. And what I tell people, I like that skinny fat. Like, he looks like he's fit because he's slender. I was like,
Right.
that stuff adds up.
And the message that I send is, for my entire career and for my entire, almost my whole life, I've been that fitness person. And so I've eaten in a way that supports health. I've trained my body in a way that supports health. I've slept in a way that supports health. And even so, every year when I go to my physical now, my cholesterol is awesome. My triglycerides, awesome. All of my levels are unbelievable, except my fasting blood glucose. It always runs 100, 101, 103, 98, which is pre-diabetic. I do not eat in a way that would support diabetes in my body. I do have family history, but not close family history of type 2 diabetes. And so I attribute that to the sleep deprivation and the
Okay.
hormonal disruption.
Yeah.
And so even someone who dedicates their life to being healthy and well, the career will get you. So you got to fight hard.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Well, Missy, I think this has been a great little conversation. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Yes. If
Okay.
anyone is watching the video, welcome to my closet. If not, I'm in a professional sound studio. That's why it sounds so good.
I know. Closets are perfect. The sound quality in them is amazing. I need to get sound dampening stuff in my own room here.
You sound good though.
Yeah, it's because I got the mic so damn close to it. This is the benefits of having an external mic with the sound mixer next to you. So it really works out.
Okay, so final thoughts. Within this career, you will come to a time where you will not be okay. And it's okay to not be okay, but it is not okay to stay there. So you need to reach out your hand for help and support, and there will be a hand there to support you. You just have to ask and just maximize your chances for a long and healthy career by sleeping well, eating well, moving your body, and then, for God's sakes, find yourself a therapist, someone to talk to. That would be my final thoughts.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you doing this show. I definitely think that you will have inspired some future female firefighters. I hope my kiddos, I got 2 daughters, a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. So
All right.
I try not to, they've got no limits. They can do whatever the hell they want. Dad's got their back. So hearing stories like yours gives me hope for my kids to go out and achieve things that they're told they can't necessarily do. So
Absolutely. And then also just let them know that if they get there and they don't love it, that's okay too. Find something else to do.
Yeah, plenty of time. My wife just started doing nursing at 30. She was 36 when she started. I mean, school, obviously, and she graduates this December. She's 38, going to be 39.
Good for her. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Give her my congrats.
I will. Well, ma'am, I will end this, and I appreciate you being out here.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.